like to welcome you to the inauguration of the 5-day AICTE Training and Learning Online Faculty Development Program. I extend a warm welcome to Dr. Atul Bengeri, Vice President and Director at Acumen Today Private Limited, Mr. Abhijit Devgirkar, Founder and CEO of Copper Cloud IoTech, Dr. B.P. Patil, Principal AIT Pune, Dr. G.R. Patil, Head of the Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering Department AIT and Coordinator for the session. I would now like to invite Dr. G.R. Patil to speak a little about Atal and the FDP.
Hello. Good morning all. On behalf of Army Institute of Technology and Department of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering, welcome you all for this 5-day AICTE Training and Learning Online Faculty Development Program on Internet of Things with industry perspective. And this FDP will be conducted from today till 28th of November. So the training program of which is already been circulated. So for this inauguration session, I welcome our principal, Dr. B.P. Patil, then Mr. Atul Bengeri, who is founder of Acumen Today, and Mr. Abhijit Devgirkar, who will be taking most of the sessions in this FDP. And all my dear participants. So I welcome you all again for this inaugural function. And this particular FDP was conceived by me in the beginning of this academic year, and the AICTE through its Atal Academy has sanctioned this FDP to me, and me along with the guest speakers will be conducting this FDP for next 5 days. So this Internet of Things is an emerging area, and this IoT is a multidisciplinary topic that way. So it requires knowledge of electronics, communication, then embedded systems, maybe VLSI, then computer programming, then cloud computing, database, and whatnot. Even data science as well comes into this. So, but then it is not possible for us to cover all these topics. But then we have designed this FDP with special focus on some topics which are very important from the practical applications point of view, namely the IoT specific architecture, then the cloud services, then IoT middleware, then designing database for IoT, and the application IoT, etc. So we through this FDP, the participants will be able to conceptualize, evaluate, design, build, and deploy a small or medium scale IoT or IIoT solutions, and they will have hands-on experience on the techniques and tools used to develop a professional solution. So that is what is our aim. So without taking much of your time, I'll be there throughout this FDP for all 5 days, and we'll have more interactions on the various sessions. So without taking much of your time, I hand over the mic to Kenneth again for the next proceedings. Kenneth.
All right, thank you very much, sir. I would now like to introduce one of our speakers today. As Dr. Patil mentioned, that we will be having him as a majority for the majority of the sessions. Mr. Abhijit Devgirkar is currently the founder and director of Copper Cloud IoTech. He is an alumnus of Army Institute of Technology, Pune, graduating with a bachelor's in computer engineering in 2003. He spent the next 15 years working in several roles in HSBC Global Technology before founding his own company, Copper Cloud. Over the past few months, Mr. Devgirikar has conducted several university training sessions for students and is now an adjunct faculty at Army Institute of Technology. I would now request Mr. Abhijit Devgirikar to kindly take over.
Thanks very much, Kenneth, and thanks, Principal Sir and Patil Sir. Good morning, everybody. This is Abhijit Devgirikar. It's been my pleasure to work very closely with the Army Institute of Technology and afterwards other colleges as well in the field of IoT education. So it's a really great pleasure for me to be, being a part of this FTE program. I think Dr. Patil sir has covered very nicely what all the in a nutshell, I'll just give a very quick, I would say bullet point, something for you to look forward to. I think
I request the participants to please mute yourself.
Yes, sir, they've been muted.
Thank you. So in a nutshell, right, this is, as I said, to a large extent, this is a very, very technical, very, very multidisciplinary and hands-on FDP. So that's why the heart of most of these topics is going to be the technical overview of IoT with a goal that, as Dr. Patil sir said, at the end of the FDP, all of us would be able to not just conceptualize and design, but actually build and deploy some of these systems. And as we know that today, all technology systems are built like Lego structures, right? They're small, small building blocks which we arrange in different ways. So most of our sessions would be focusing on understanding and learning these building blocks, but we will not stop there. What we'll then do is take a very core industry perspective in what are the practices, what are the tools. The entire industry is moving more and more towards tooling based ecosystem. So we'll take a close look at that also. Now, today, IoT is one among the major technologies changing the world. We will also take a look at the broader ecosystem, the big picture of what else is available to technologists today. And we'll wind it up with, to be a well-rounded session, we will also take a look at the consumer perspective. When somebody consumes our IoT solution, what is going on in their minds and how we can help them. And lastly, after all, we are here, our biggest stakeholders are students. How can we help our students to become catalysts to move the world more and more towards adopting IoT and other Industry 4 technologies? So all in all, it starts with the technical overview, but at the end of the FDP, I hope the way under Patil sir's guidance, we have designed it in a way that we will give you a very well-rounded view of this path-breaking technology and how do we use it on a daily basis. So I hope to make it a very engaging and very enjoyable session for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that insight on what we can expect. I now would like to invite Dr. B.P. Patil, Principal at Army Institute of Technology, Pune, to say a few words.
Good morning, all participants. Good morning to all the dignitaries present for this particular program, speakers for this program. One of the objective of the Atal scheme of the AICTE is to plan and help the imparting the quality education in the country and support the technical institutions in the fostering research, innovation, and entrepreneur through the training in the various emerging areas. Internet of Things is one of the emerging area and which needs a lot of attention. And through this program, I believe that we will be able to impart certain knowledge which will be useful to the faculty, and further consequently they will be delivering this knowledge to the students. With the advent of 4G and 5G technology, the bandwidth will be no longer an issue. The huge data which has been generated in the industry through these various devices will be handled properly, and the decision making will be very easy through these IoT devices. Looking to the future of the Cisco, which predicted that the 50 billion IoT devices will be there, connected through the various means, that is machines and all these things. And this useful data will be used for taking the decision. With this kind of growth, there will be a requirement of trained manpower, and hence we need to prepare our students for the same. This FDP program is aimed at providing a particular training on the Internet of Things to the faculty of the various colleges who would be teaching to these subjects to their students. I would like to congratulate Dr. G.R. Patil and his team of the Department of ENTC who took a lot of efforts and initiatives for conducting this program. Let me introduce Army Institute of Technology in a short. Army Institute of Technology is founded in 1994 as a result of vision and untiring efforts of the late General B.C. Joshi, PVSM, AVSM, ADC for the children of all ranks of the Indian Army. AIT foundations or works under the aegis of Army Welfare Education Society, and which is affiliated to the Savitribai Phule Pune University. AIT is ranked at the number 109 by the NIRF in 2020 survey. AIT has awarded the best professional college by the Savitribai Phule Pune University in 2016-17. AIT runs the undergraduate programs in computer engineering, information technology, electronics and telecommunication engineering, and mechanical engineering. We do conduct the PG program in the machine design. All UG programs of this AIT are accredited by the National Board of Accreditation, and institute is also accredited by the NAAC with the A grade. My best wishes to all the participants and request everyone to percolate the knowledge gained in this FDP to your students. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Hello, Kenneth, just 1 minute.
Yes, sir.
Can one of the participant just tell that is the audio okay?
Yes, sir. It is okay. Perfectly okay.
Yes, sir. This is Amog Deshmukh. Audio is absolutely fine, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Very much audible. Thank you so much.
Facing the audio issue. So please, I request them to check their audio system. Okay. Thank you, Kenneth. You can.
Sure thing, yes, sir. Now, allow me to introduce our keynote speaker today, Mr. Atul Bengeri. When I had the chance to look at the resume and experience that Mr. Bengeri possessed, I was in awe. With over 22 years of experience in the IT industry, his skills, certification, educational experience, and qualifications are at a level that very few people ever achieve. So allow me to go through it in a chronological order. He has completed his Bachelor of Engineering at SJCE Mysore, where he achieved the 4th rank at the University of Mysore. He completed his post-graduation in Computer Application from the University of Mysore. He has done his MS in Software Systems from BITS Pilani. He has an MBA in Marketing from Symbiosis Institute of Management Studies. He is a PhD scholar at Savitribai Phule University, SVPU, or Pune University. That extensive work experience of his has seen him be a part of companies like Siemens, Intel, and Dell. He has specializations in several fields. Since today's FDP topic is the practices and practical applications of IoT solutions, I would like to point out that he is an Internet of Things specialist as well. And so with that basic introduction in mind, I would now like to invite Mr. Atul to take this session ahead. Sir, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Kenneth, for the introduction, and I would like to thank Dr. Gajanan Patil for inviting me and being in touch with me for quite some time while this FDP was being planned. Thank you so much, sir, and nice to be here. Dr. BP Patil, thank you for again this opportunity. I will ensure that the participants will leave with at least some insights into the industry perspective from the IoT side. So if you allow me, I will start my presentation.
Yes, sir. So you have been made presenter, so you can
Yes.
share your presentation.
Yes, I've seen that, and let me just take it up. Okay, so probably before I get in, maybe, yeah, okay. So just to confirm, you're able to see the presentation?
Yes, sir. We are able to see. Any one participant
Okay, wonderful.
Confirm?
Yes, we are able to see, sir.
Yes, sir, we are able to see.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's visible. We can able to see.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so while I am part of Acumen today as of now, it's a company into edutech. We are working on education and IoT to ensure that we bring in the accessibility, availability, and affordability in the education segment. This has been one of the prime areas that I have been working on. Technology, healthcare, and education is what I have specialized in the last 22 odd years. And I'm also part of the Society for Data Science as an executive member and founding member, which is again a Pune-based society, been in existence for over 3 years now, wherein we proliferate and engage with industry and academia for bringing the awareness on data science in the first place, and also encourage research and development activities through the data science perspective. So that being the case, let's get in directly into what the program is for today, the FDP. So the invitation says it all. But again, whether I am the right person or not, of course, through experience, yes, but also I intentionally did a course on IoT to understand it from the academic side, also from the SAP side of it, which is again Internet of Things with SAP. This is a course that I did during the lockdown, and I am a certified IoT SAP specialist as well. Just to get into the perspective for this FDP, I will correlate it. Okay, so probably the moderator can have the participants to go on mute. It should not be disturbing to others. And if there are any questions, probably it can be put on chat and we will take it up further. Kenneth can help us with that. Coordinating, yes, right? Okay, Kenneth, thank you so much. Yes, so let me start with the big picture of what India is into as of now. And whatever you're going to see on this slide is what you would be hearing, what you have heard, and what would define the next few years and few decades for India as a country. And Atmanirbhar Bharat comes at the core of it. And how is it relevant to today's topic is what we will explore. And you will see that it is very, very relevant, and it is correlated to the technology aspects, the business aspects, and the economic aspects. So it just doesn't remain at the Atmanirbhar Bharat program or the mission that India is on to. It is supported by a lot of programs that have already been initiated and have taken shape over the last few years in India, especially in the digital side of it. Starting with Digital India, Make in India, Smart City, the Amrut projects, the Amrut mission, and the Startup India is all facilitating and creating the ecosystem which is needed for any technology to proliferate into various different industry segments and to reach out to the consumers. As rightly said by Devagiri sir, it is mainly to ensure that it reaches every human being. I will not get into the statistics in terms of how many IoT devices would be there by 2020, by 2030. It is freely available on a click of a button. You can search it for yourself. But what is important is to see how we align ourselves into enabling all of this to ensure that we are on the growth path and we don't lose out on the global trend that is shaping up as we speak. And as educators, it is our moral, social, and professional responsibility to ensure that we are in alignment with the larger picture, and also to ensure that the student community benefits the most through all of this. So while we need to have the bigger picture, we also need to get into the nitty-gritties and the ground level realities of each of the aspects when we talk about IoT. And to add to it, it is also helping the healthcare segment. And what better time to talk about healthcare when we are awaiting a vaccine to be coming out for the havoc that coronavirus has played on our lives. So Ayushman Bharat is one major step towards enabling and connecting and delivering the benefits of healthcare to the masses through the use of technology. We will talk about it. And last but not the least, the National Education Policy of 2020, that we would be implementing it from very soon, probably from the next academic year, whenever it starts, is all encompassing and creating the necessary foundation, what we call the ecosystem, for getting technology ingrained in our DNA going forward. Having said this, let's take a look at a growth of a nation. How does this actually happen? It happens through these three verticals: human capital, infrastructure, and commerce. If we look at the commerce side of it, it has taken a major hit because of the lockdown, which the whole world has gone into, for reasons that we are having this particular FDP virtually on a digital platform rather than a physical and a direct interactive platform. Commerce has taken a big hit, but technology has actually ensured that it doesn't nosedive and it doesn't go beyond a particular negative sentiment. Infrastructure. Let's talk about the infrastructure. It's just because of the infrastructural availability as of now. And when I talk about infrastructure, it is not the physical infrastructure, it is the digital infrastructure that I am referring to. Thanks to the digital infrastructure that we have, we are all connected. Of course, we were connected from a long time now, but this connection is what I am referring to, is actually helping us not only connect with people, but also interact and share knowledge. That is what is most important. And why are we doing all this? Because of the human capital aspect. Human capital is basically the human natural dividend that we have, especially in a country like India. The demographic dividend that we call is mainly due to the huge human capital that we have at our disposal. At different skill set level, different capabilities, different competencies, all of it is not what we will talk. But yes, human capital is one of the major asset that would be needed by a country like India to flourish, to go to the next level of growth. And how are we enabling all of this? I've just taken a few examples at the bottom. At a country level, these are some of the initiatives that had to be taken and have been taken and are on a growth path to empower every citizen of a nation through innovation, through technology, and through a lot of connected ways and means. So to enable the human capital, we have the Skill India programs and Startup India programs. Everything is technology driven. For the infrastructure, we have the smart cities. And for the commerce, Make in India is a major, major growth area which would propel creation of employment, generation of employment, and use of human capital for the right growth. You may have a question as to why am I talking about all this? What is the necessity of having all this mentioned? I will get to it. It is very, very important that the evolution of a nation needs to be looked at. It is the digital transformation that is driving India as a country. If you look at it, let's rewind ourselves and go back to probably 70, 75 years back. If we look at the post-independent country as India, the basic focus was on food, shelter, clothing, roti, kapda, makan. And then started the focus on work. It didn't stop there. It started with providing an opportunity and a foundation for going beyond the country. Globalization started when India opened up way back in the 1990s. That was the time when we started focusing on better jobs, better connectivity in terms of infrastructure, physical infrastructure, transportation, and energy. And that is when IT-enabled jobs and IT-enabled segments, IT-enabled industry started taking shape. This was not just within the country. This was actually the phenomena and the trend that was happening globally. So we had to align. And now, in today's world, in 2020, the focus is on connectivity, focus is on automation, and focus is on convenience. And all of this is being enabled by the digitization, the digital transformation of businesses, the digital transformation of all the industry segments is what we are talking about today, and that is where we are. So digital transformation has actually brought in a connected world, a connected community, a connected industry, and a connected citizen. So that is where IoT actually plays a role. But before we get into the IoT, it is my responsibility to bring in all the facets of what you are going to experience in this FDP in the next 4 to 5 days. And industrial revolution can't be ignored. The phases of industrial revolution has to be understood. And where we are today is what will define where we will be tomorrow. Industry 1.0, 2.0 is all things of past. It is history. Industry 3.0 is when electronics and IT-enabled automation and IT-enabled digitization came into existence. Industry 4.0 is the cyber-physical interfacing of connecting the physical world to the cyber world. Connecting the physical world to the digital world is what is helping us in connecting all the aspects of the digital infrastructure and the digital industries on a common platform. So having said this, the focus, while it's on Industry 4.0, it is leading to Society 5.0, which would mean that we are enabling the citizens to be digitally enabled and digitally aware of what challenges they would face in the first place if they are not careful, and what benefits they would accrue when they are digitally connected. Of course, that is not the topic of discussion now, but that is one very big aspect that we need to be considering going forward. Let's come to IoT now. Okay, I've just taken up a few IoT definitions from various different sources. But I thought these three are what would actually bring in a 360-degree view of what IoT is. Now, before we get into the definition, let me tell you, IoT is nothing new. The Internet of Things, if you look at it, old school technologists who have spent 20, 30, 40 years in this industry would know that this is something like an old wine in new bottle. Oh yes, these days it is all about advertising. It is all about connecting with the people with something new. If I say IoT has been in existence ever since my first PC or my mainframe came into existence, it will not be false. It is all about when the devices got connected to the internet. Let's go a little backward. Industry 1.0, Industry 2.0 saw the use of steam and electricity as one of the prime movers. Electricity or electric power is the prime mover of any aspect when it comes to digital transformation. Industry 2.0 also had something called connected devices. We are talking about connected world, connected devices, and any connected devices is an Internet of Things today. But we had connected devices way back in Industry 2.0 also. At that point in time, any device that would connect to the electricity, which would consume electricity, would be considered as a connected device. Today, the definition has a little bit extended, but it is not new. A device that is connected onto a grid which consumes electricity and also connects with other devices would be considered as an Internet of Things today. In very simple term, if we were to bring in the analogy. Okay. Now look at the definition what Gartner says. Is the network of physical objects that contain embedded technology to communicate and sense or interact with their internal states or the external environment. Very, very effective definition of what IoT is. We are connecting physical objects. Yes, that is physical cyber connectivity, which has some embedded technology, which could be for communication, which could be for storage, which could be for compute, which could be for all of this put together, and also for collecting data from sensors and actuators from external environment and interact with the internal states. Internal states would be the way the data is stored, the way data is transferred, the way data is analyzed, and all those things. So if you look at it, it is a conglomeration of a lot of technology that is available till date. It is similar to what we saw as cloud technology that came probably 10, 15 years back. Now, cloud is also nothing new. Cloud has been in existence ever since my first mainframe came in. Or if I want to extend the first time when I got connected through an email, most of the experienced folks in this platform on this group would remember their first email that they would have created on Hotmail, yourname@hotmail.com. That was the first probably experience for all of us to be connected on a cloud, but it was not called cloud then. So as simple as an email ID is what cloud is, and as simple as an electric device which is consuming electricity is IoT today. So let's look at Wikipedia. I don't consider that to be very, very authentic, but this particular definition is actually very, very meaningful. So I've just put it up. System of interrelated computing devices, which means to say that they are connected and they are interrelated to each other. Mechanical and digital machines, objects, animals, or people that are provided with unique identifiers, anything for that matter, if you see. So we are also part of the IoT ecosystem. We are also an object in the IoT ecosystem. I put in a tag or I put in a sensor on an animal. It would also be, I hear some IoT background music. This is also IoT probably. Yeah, on the side. Can we please go on mute? Oh, yes. Okay. So somebody may be experimenting with a physical digital interface while we are having this conference. That is good. Nevertheless, on the lighter side, if I have a sensor put on an animal, I would be able to monitor its movement. I would be able to monitor a lot of things about the animal. Same holds good with people. And probably just extend your thoughts and probably come out with some way in which you can think of an IoT enabled vaccine delivery system. Not that we would be thinking of it for the first time, but yes, start thinking of it. Start thinking as to how IoT can actually help in reaching out to the last mile. The last mile connectivity, the last meter connectivity, and an effective way of ensuring that we are in control and we are monitoring every aspect of every object being monitored, being tracked and analyzed in a connected environment. So that is what it says. Transfer data over a network without requiring human to human or human to computer interaction. Wow, that is something which we need to think of. Whenever there is an human intervention in the digital world, there are chances of human errors being incorporated into the system. If I eliminate the human interface with the machines, if I eliminate the human interfacing with the digital technology, that would eliminate a lot of errors, which would mean that I'm required to eliminate human to human interaction. Yes, not necessarily, but yes. When we talk about IoT in parlance, yes. And human to computer interaction, that would ensure that my data is not corrupted. My data is true. My data is reliable without any human error incorporated. So that is the most important aspect that gets automated through Internet of Things. And then what are Internet of Things is what comes in the third definition here. Everyday devices equipped with sensors and connectivity, most important, to work together, understand what we are doing, and operate automatically to make our lives easier. Yes, absolutely. It's about bringing in the ease of living aspect when we talk about use of technology and use of IoT in a larger perspective. Let's go forward. All this has been made possible because of the changes that have happened in the technology side, in the technology industry, in the digital transformation industry over the last 3 to 4 decades. And this is ever evolving. It is going to change from now on as well. It's not going to stop. And what are those changes? We have seen changes in the hardware. When we talk about hardware, it's not just about the size. It's not just about the capability. It's not just about the enhanced hardware technology that is enabling a lot of software that has been built around it. And when we talk about software, it is not just about the different applications that we have, but the different usage models that has brought about a change in the way we are able to connect. So hardware, software, networking, and connectivity are the prime movers today. I'm not even talking about electricity as a prime mover. That is something that we have taken it for granted. And when we talk about hardware, we also talk about the power consumption reduced to almost negligible. For example, a server processor or a CPU, which would guzzle away 160 watts 15 years back, is guzzling less than 1 watt today. That is the advancement that has happened, as just one example I would give. And when I was at Intel, we would have this parlance, and you can go on the internet and you can see for some illustrations, is that the way Intel as a technology leader has used Moore's law last 45 years. If the same Moore's law was to be applied to the automobile industry, we should have seen a exponential growth in terms of the efficiency of the vehicles, in terms of they providing more mileage per liter of petrol, which would mean that it would have been almost free for all of us to use any internal combustion engine and not bother about the price of the crude oil. That's the parlance we were to look at, but not all industries are the same. Moore's law actually mentions that technology helps in doubling the capacity, capability, and the power of the digital device that is in your hand every 18 months with reduced power. And that is alive even today. That holds good for the electronic industry, but doesn't hold good for the manufacturing or the physical industry per se. Nevertheless, if it was to happen, we would have been in a more cleaner environment, more greener environment, but that is still to happen. But disruptions are happening across different industries. So not necessarily it's just the internal combustion engine in the manufacturing and automobile industry. We have moved away from internal combustion technology to something which is green in nature, which is probably solar powered vehicles and of course electric vehicles that have already been in the market. We will talk about it later. So all of this has actually helped us in bringing in the availability of resources. Technical resources is what I'm talking about. Accessible to the resources. I have access to hardware, software, networking, and connectivity sitting at my home today without worrying about the affordability aspect, because most of it is open source or most of it is free to use and a freemium kind of models that have come up. So sitting at home, I can have a complete lab setup at absolutely no cost. That is because of the advancements that have happened across all different segments of the digital spectrum that we just spoke about. Having said this, the IoT architecture at a very high level would look something like this way. Look at it. We spoke about all of the connected device components. We will come to the issues later, but look at it. We would have simple sensors and actuators spread across anything and everything, whether it is in a house, whether it is in an industry, whether it is in a manufacturing setup, whether it is in a plant, whether it could be in logistics or even for surveillance. They would be somehow connected to the cloud, to the data center, wherein I would have all the data collected, collated, computed, and analyzed at the back end to ensure that I would see that the data that is being collected is being used in the right way for the right impact. And when we talk about smart sensors and equipment, anything and everything that is outside in the physical world is a smart sensor for me. Every equipment that is installed outside in the physical world is a digital equipment today. And what am I going to do with all this? I would be creating a connected knowledge network which would help me in providing the services to the citizens to the government, to the cities, and to the industry at large to ensure that business doesn't stop. And just rewind back 6-7 months when we went into lockdown. First 21 days was, wow, a much needed break. We all enjoyed it. We have not taken a holiday of 21 days ever in our life, probably. It was a forced vacation. What a wonderful thing to happen in our lifetime. But at the same time, nothing stopped. When I say nothing stopped, the basic necessities, the basic requirements for us to actually ensure that we are safe, secure, and we are not having any shortage of the basic necessities was ensured. Look at the delivery mechanism. Look at the logistics. Look at the various industries that got together in helping every individual on planet Earth to be leading a safe and secure life. It was nothing else but a classic example of digital transformation enabling the basic necessities reaching out to the people in however and whatever ways possible. Having said this, let's take a look at the database evolution, because that is also one of the topic that I saw in the themes. I thought I will just touch base upon it. I will take a short pause here to ensure that everybody is on the same page and we are in sync. And I would like to hear from you in terms of the pace and on the understandability of what has been covered till now. Can I get some few feedback, please? Kenneth, if you can just open it up, please.
Yes, sir. We understood the basic concept and we were able to understand how the IoT is being spread across the various domains.
Okay.
So it was clearly explained by you.
Wonderful. Okay. So the pace is okay, madam?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, nevertheless, so let's go forward. Databases, it's always good to have a perspective from the past so that I can leapfrog and leap forward into the future. It's not that database is a new terminology that we all hear of now, not at all. And it's not that it's been existing in the last 20-30 years. No, if you look at it, we have databases as early as 1960s. Of course, it was not in the same way as what it is today. Those were flat files. Those were traditional files, which would be in a particular format as text, which was a little difficult to handle. So the thought process was to bring in a structured way of handling data. And that is when we started getting to know the hierarchical databases and networked databases, which we talk about the DBases and the FoxPros and the yesteryear databases, which we would use earlier. But that also had some challenges. So we had to move to relational databases, wherein we started talking about moving from DBMS to RDBMS. And then came in the object-oriented and object-relational databases. That is when OOPS concept got introduced, the object-oriented programming systems, wherein everything was created as an object, or everything was looked at as an object. The way we are looking at it today, we used to start looking at those data elements as objects then. Today, we are looking at anything and everything that is physical as an object, right? And that led to, again, a relational database moving into vast big data, big table, big data sets from 2000 onwards. This led to a lot of changes that happened, which took us back in the evolution. Now we are back from where we have advanced from just a flat file and traditional files to object related, object relational, and big data is what happened, that we went back to where we were, where we started, and look at the evolution. I'll tell you what I'm talking about. DBMS to RDBMS, and operational databases of RDBMS to data warehousing technologies, OLTPs and OLAP, all of it coming to our help because we started dealing with large amount of data, but the data was restrictive and data was useful only at an enterprise level and not at a multi-enterprise level. So when we talk about RDBMS, it was still restrictive. But today it has opened up because though we have RDBMS concepts, though we have OLAP and OLTP concepts, though we have relational and networking databases concepts, it has opened up because the nature of data being created, the nature of data that is being used has changed drastically because it is no longer text as a data. It is no longer enterprise related data. It is much beyond all of it. And that is where Hadoop and NoSQL, MongoDB, Cassandra, and all of these new age database concepts came into existence, which is what I mean to say that we have gone back to using free flow, no structure databases that we used to use it in our traditional flat files. But we can't just go back to where we started in 1960s because we have crossed a lot of bridges. We have brought in a lot of technologies in between these 50, 60 years. And that is where we need an aggregator kind of an approach. And that is where our HDFS and MongoDB and the new NoSQL concepts are helping us. So having said this, user-generated data is what is leading the proliferation of IoT. And when we talk about user-generated data, classic example is the interaction that we are having, which is digitally enabled. It is creating data. It is not creating data in a completely structured manner. Probably it is creating data in a semi-structured manner. But when I start chatting, when I start probably getting this posted on any social media network through either audio, video, photos, or even text, or the presentation itself, it becomes completely unstructured. And look at it, 80% of world's data is unstructured today. That is because we have opened up. This is an opportunity. And this is what I keep saying. Content everywhere, but no contentment. Content is being generated on the fly in an exponential manner every second. But we are not contented with it. There is no contentment. I need more data. I'm hungry for data. And what we say today is that 5 years back, we would say data is the new oil. No, data is not the new oil anymore. Data is the new water. It is as essential as water to the flora and fauna on this planet Earth. And that is being enabled by IoT. That is being catapulted to the next level by IoT. That is being transformed by IoT. So having said this, I'll just give you a perspective of the user-generated content. Look at this. 59%, I've just taken an example of media trustworthiness. 59% of the data that is being generated on the media, which is social media, digital media. This is a little bit old, but it has not changed much. Probably 2020, because of the COVID situation and lockdown, it would have changed. But more or less, it's the same. The consumption has increased. Users have started generating a lot of content online. And that is leading to more and more focus on looking at data in different aspects. Now let's bring it up in the IoT aspect of it. Intelligent video analytics. It is basically solving a big problem, but Cameras are not always monitored. This is a big opportunity for IoT specialists. Not that no work has been done here, a lot of work has happened, but this is the new age requirement of surveillance, safety and security of people, safe cities, all of it needing technology enabled solutions to ensure that I keep my cities safe, my society safe, my citizens safe. But just by having a video surveillance doesn't help. I need a lot of video analytics thought process put in ensuring that I detect anything as a predictive way rather than a reactive way. So there's a lot of research going on in computer vision, pattern recognition, not just on still photographs, but on video as well. A big opportunity which is enabled by IoT. Let's go forward. Need to solve the following imperatives. When we look at all of this, there is a big imperative that we need to look at it in a holistic manner. When new technologies come in, new business models also start defining the way businesses occur. Today we talk about the XS is what I say. X is a variable, which is, it could be software assisted systems, that is SaaS. It could be platform enabled. It could be technology enabled. It could be anything. So it is basically the way businesses evolve and revolve around new technologies. That would lead to insights and information that we would get, which would be need basis. In many mission control applications, it would be real time, online, every time. But in not so mission critical applications, it would be need based, which is available button. Mobility has helped the proliferation of IoT because it has got flexible endpoints and information on demand can be accessed from anywhere across the world once I am connected. Which is what leads to the next thing, which is the information access anytime, anywhere, anyone. Of course, when we say anyone, it is of course through the authentication layers. And of course, the data explosion that we have seen and what I just spoke about is not only leading to managing all of this, but also predicting what could happen in the future. So predictive analytics is what is taking shape, enabled by IoT. Let's take a look at the digital transformation pyramid. The digital pyramid, the technology aspect of it, which will also lead to our IoT architecture. At the foundational level, we talk about the digital infrastructure, which is basic compute, storage, networking, connectivity, and all of those aspects, which would lead to an orchestration layer, wherein it would lead to a consolidation of the data that is being collected across various different platforms, various different protocols, various different devices, various different stacks. But it needs to be consolidated and orchestrated at the back end in the data center, and we should be able to manage all of the infrastructure that is spread across the different geographical locations. And then the applications that would use the data, the applications that would make sense of the data, is what would enable in the delivery of the information management, information on the devices, which is enabled through not just data and information, but also security, cyber security coming into place. So if you look at it, traditionally, we have been focusing only on the foundational and orchestration and enablement. IoT is actually helping taking all of this to the last mile and the last meter. That is the delivery aspect of it. But look at it from an inverted pyramid, from top to bottom. the IoT devices are also helping in creating the data that is needed at the orchestration level, and also using the foundational infrastructure of compute, storage, and networking in a holistic manner. So it is not just a one-way traffic, it is a two-way traffic. And that is what is helping in not only using data, but also in making sense of the data in real time. Going forward, vision for the future, we all need to be looking at bringing in the efficient, optimized use of resources. We have a lot of automation that has come in for optimized use of resources, but it needs to be seamless, which means to say that it needs to be integrated in our daily life services. It has to be safe and secure, which doesn't mean that it is just protecting me from the nuances of today, but it needs to protect me from the threats of tomorrow also, which is basically anticipating risks and protect people and information, which is the most important thing. I would talk about information and people after I speak about the impactfulness. Enriched life and businesses experiences for all. Sitting at home, we don't even know what businesses are working on to enable that we don't lose out on the basic necessities of life. And today, the basic necessity of life is not roti kapda makan. The basic necessity of life is the utilities that we have access to, which is mainly electricity and internet. So that is the impactfulness that we need to bring about. And sitting at your home, you are able to get to know the weather conditions of any city, any location across the world. This was not possible 10, 15 years back. Sitting at home, you are able to at least get to know the information of the air quality across different locations in your city and different cities across your country or the globe. This was not possible earlier. So look at the impact. You may ask me, what is the impact? Okay, very simple. If I were to look at using the data that is generated through these IoT devices that are spread across different geographic locations and bring it to meaning, it would help me in not venturing out in this situation, especially if I am a heart patient, if I am a respiratory tract infectious person. For example, if I'm asthmatic, I would definitely not go out to a place where the air quality index is very, very low. These are some informed decisions that I will make. I've just given some small examples. Look at the magnitude of the insights that I would have if I were to work at an industry level, if I were to work at a city-wide level, if I were to work at a policy level. Now, that is what has enabled all of us because we are in a connected world. So just to confirm, how much more time do I have?
So you can continue up to 11:30.
Okay.
If we want to take some questions, then 10 minutes before that, you can, if it is possible.
Okay, so probably I have 20 more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. And let me go forward. So once that we are in a connected world, I'm going to take examples of what is making our world so connected. Let me talk about something really different. Look at smart cars. We have been hearing about connected cars for a long time now, but yes, look at this market. Of course, this data I have taken little backdated, but I don't have data of 2020, so I'm using it of 2018. The global connected car market will be worth $39 billion in 2018. Even if I look at a 10% addition to this, you can make a math and come to 2020. But look at the growth from 2012 to 2018 in just a matter of 5 years, it has catapulted. Now, what does this mean? This means that we are already in a connected world and it is ever growing, that is not going to stop in the near future. Just an example of just cars. But look at the components that have gone into making a smart car, a connected car. It is all enabled by IoT. It is not just about the location of the car. It is not just about the sensors that would tell me what is the fuel, what is the oil, and what is the air pressure. No, it is much beyond all of it, which is bringing this to a driverless car. Just imagine the sensitivity of the sensors and actuators that would be needed to be placed all across your vehicle. Not just that, the humongous algorithm that I would need for getting all of this data consolidated, collaborated, corroborated to ensure that the people sitting inside the car are safe. And when I say safe, it is to ensure that you don't go and hit anyone, and also ensure that you don't get hit by anything. It's a lot of connected devices that go into the vehicle. It is not just about the car management, about the heat, about the fuel, about the other parameters of the car. It is more to do with the safety and security of the commuters. And as of now, it would look very risky to sit in a driverless car, but the experiments have been really, really very successful. But let's challenge technology of saying that, show it working on Indian roads. Then we will agree. Absolutely. If such a technology can be implemented, tested, and trusted in India, that would be the success of smart cars. And it is sooner than later, it is a possibility. It's just a matter of time, because technology is improving by the hour. Technology is improved and leapfrogged from the time we started this seminar. So technology is actually overworking to enable all of this happens sooner than later. So having said this, this is just to give you a larger picture and larger dimension and perspective as to where all IoT has proliferated. I am not even talking about nanotechnology now. That's a completely different topic, but again, IoT enabled, which we will not be talking today. Could be your topic for some other day. Let's go a little forward. Let's take a look at a city in itself. I would prefer to talk about this more, because I have worked extensively and closely with all of this across various different cities in India. Why am I talking about this? Because we have smart cities that are being developed in India, and we have taken a pledge to bring about 100 smart cities in the next probably 6 to 10 years. The intent is to build around 116 smart cities in India. Let me give you a perspective. In the whole of the world, as of now, before India came into existence, in the sense existence in the smart city arena, there were 189 smart cities. And India started talking about smart city 6-7 years back. And that's when India took on the world, saying that you have 189 cities on the smart city radar across the globe. India will give you 100 smart cities in the next 10 years. Of the 10 years, probably 4 years have gone. So 6 to 7 years, we would be adding 100 smart cities to that 189 cities list. And 189 cities are across the world. Now, what makes it so very important for India to take such a big leap? Yes, it's important because our cities are growing. Of course, technology is an enabling factor, yes, but then if I have to bring in so many aspects and so many components together, which is technology enabled, is not an easy task. First of all, my cities need to embrace technology, need to embrace digital transformation in its real sense. We would have already added 100 and probably looking at adding 100 more by now, provided our cities were digitally enabled to an extent that would cover all of these aspects that you see as small, different colored ovals spread across. Slowly and steadily, we are getting there, but it's a Herculean task. It's not an easy task to transform a city overnight into a digital city or a smart city. Stockholm, New York, Singapore, London, the names that I'm taking are smart cities, which are on the top 10, top 20 smart cities of the world. And they have taken 20, 25 years to reach that stage. So if you look at the top 100 smart cities across the world, let's feel proud and happy that as of 2019, 4 of our cities already made a mark in the top 100 smart cities. That's a great achievement for Inmar. That's the power of the knowledge that we have in India. That's the power of leapfrog and embracing new technology. That is what is leading to the boom of smart cities. Look at all of these aspects. Many cities have a lot of improved delivery of all of these smaller aspects if you look at it as a citizen. And all of this is enabled by IoT. I have spoken about the different components of IoT earlier. So when I talk about lighting, there would be different IoT components that would go in. Every street light, every bulb or every LED that gets onto the lighting pole becomes an IoT device for me. Every surveillance camera that is fitted on various different light posts or the traffic signals becomes an IoT device for me. Every traffic signal itself becomes an IoT device. Now just imagine once all of these are IoT enabled and I'm sitting at the city command and control center, I would be able to manage traffic in a more efficient manner because I would have adaptive traffic technology implemented to ensure that my traffic is smooth flowing. It is flowing without any traffic jams, without wastage of time at the traffic signals. Small example. Same thing helps us across a lot of aspects when it comes to utilities of gas supply, water supply, electric supply, and solid waste management, garbage disposal, and a whole lot of other aspects. If at a city level, this is the enablement that is needed, just imagine at a state level or at a country level, what is the level of integration that would be needed for us to be actually accruing the benefit of IoT. It is a long way forward, but we are on the right path. It would lead us to a lot of jobs in the first place, which is of most important. It will generate a lot of employability, not just at the technical layer, but in terms of implementation, in terms of delivery, in terms of manageability, in terms of maintainability, in terms of scalability, and a whole aspect that technology would bring to the table. Imagine doing a small IoT project at your home, wherein probably you would control all your electric devices, including your refrigerator, washing, your probably what else? Your microwave and your lightings, your air conditioners, a whole lot of stuff that if we were to do, I think it should start from home. Start doing some small experiments using Arduino boards, using Raspberry Pi technology, which is already available, which you would make a socket, probably an electrical socket smart, wherein you could switch it on and off by a small app that would be on your Android phone. It's as simple as that. And then you can look at the expanse of looking at the security and surveillance of the city. Looking at effective lighting manageable solution across your own society, your own area, your own locality, or your city per se. So start looking at it in a smaller bit and then look at how you will expand it. Well, it doesn't stop there, right? So let's go forward. There are a lot of examples of IoT enablement. The most important aspect, I've just picked it up, is because of the focus on healthcare. Look at the connected healthcare that we are all in today. Most of us are using a lot of these apps that are there on our mobile phone, which is collecting data even without your knowledge, probably. How many steps you walked, how many calories you burnt, at the minimum. And there are a lot of these apps which are actually collecting a lot of your data in terms of your heart condition. And if at all you have any medical condition, there are specific apps that you would have. And devices have come into your homes for monitoring chronic disease. Look at the amount of data that is being generated for every individual. If all of my family members get connected onto a common platform for collecting, managing, and diagnosing the data that we are collecting on a daily basis, which would lead to predictive analytics going forward, because I would know the trend, and the trend will be collaborated and corroborated with the other medical trends that would have collected through a lot of research. We spoke about self-driving cars. Look at this. The amount I spoke about, the sensors and the devices that would make a smart car a connected car. And this is what it says. It says self-driving cars could create 1 GB of data a second. Now, why am I talking about data? It's because when I talk about IoT, I cannot neglect data. Why am I using IoT? I'm using IoT because it is an eye, a ear, and a sense to the data that is being available, which is to be collected or to be disseminated. So that is why we talk about data, and all of these technology cannot be looked at in silo. It has to be looked at in a 360 degree. So when such amount of data is being used, just imagine what are the IoT devices that are already implemented. What are the IoT devices that are already connected? And it's not just the intra-connectivity, it is not just the interconnectivity, it is also the multi-connectivity that would be needed for making the self-driving cars safe and secure to be put on roads. Let's go forward. I will just skip this. This is just data. But then look at one more example of Internet of Things. I'm sure most of you have done a few courses, if not more, during this lockdown using MOOC. MOOC is massive open online courses. Examples are your Coursera, your Udemy, and a whole lot of online platforms that are available for you to go and take up some courses. Some estimates, this is a little old. This year it would have catapulted exponentially. So there was some data that was collected and research done through Class Central. And it says who signed up for at least one course was 35 million. This is data prior to COVID. I don't have the data now. And it's estimated 17 million. So adding up 17 million every year is what was the data in 2019. 2020 is a complete aberration. Probably I would have added more than 3 times of this number. So this actually started just probably 10 years back. And look at the proliferation it has happened. And that is because of the nature in which it is using technology. And a classic example of how IoT enabled platforms, how technology enabled platforms, digital transformative platforms are helping all of us, not only in connecting, but also in sharing knowledge and taking the entire human race to a knowledge society. Let's take a look at one thing which is very, very important. INCOIS, the Department of Science and Technology enabled Ministry of Earth Science, Government of India, took up this project working with various Southeast Asian countries. You can see the stars on the map. Soon after tsunami hit India, right? So that was the time when India took the lead of ensuring that we get to know the data much before and we are more prepared. This is a classic example of looking beyond just being reactive. This is just a classic example of looking beyond being predictive. This is a classic example of looking at it on how technology can be used to protect our people from any such tsunami disasters that would happen in the future. And this is completely IoT enabled. And now IoT enablement has taken a different shape when we are using satellite communication, satellite imagery, and satellite data also as part of Internet of Things. These are actuators, these are sensors that are placed across the Indian Ocean, going beyond different countries to ensure that we are monitoring and tracking the movements down below the sea, to ensure that we get to know the information much beyond and much early to take preventive steps. You can go online and search for this, but just an example that I wanted to take when we talk about IoT. IoT enabled usage model can go beyond just what we are thinking of, just a IoT device or an Arduino device or a Raspberry device, which would just look at a few sensors to measure temperature, pressure, atmosphere, humidity, and stuff like that. No, it is much beyond. The scope is unlimited. Now, if you want to just extend this, probably IoTs would be used and are being used for a lot of space research, for research that is being set up on the moon and on the Mars. So a lot of things happening in this space exploration. Look at it at how India is opening up in the defense sector. A lot of IoT enabled defense related research and development, defense related technological advancements in terms of not just high definition or high altitude or high artillery usage. No, it would be technology usage in terms of radars, in terms of drones, in terms of surveillance. So there is no limit to the usage models that the IoT can bring in. That's it from my side. Let me just open it up for questions. Any questions? I will stop sharing and probably I will get on to the video. So are you able to? Okay, I'll turn on my camera. Yes, sir. So let's open it up for questions, and probably you can you can let me know how you want to moderate it.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your informative talk, and it's a good beginning of FDP, I feel.
Thank you so much, sir.
So you have given a very nice overview of IoT, what is in store for future, as well as what all intricacies are involved in building any IoT applications. So I'm very much thankful to you for sparing your time for this. So I request the participants to just raise their questions. I'll just look at the chat box if there is any question in the chat box. Otherwise, there are some.
Sir, one question I have, sir.
Yes.
So it was a really good session regarding self-driving cars. What you talked about on IoT.
Yes.
Is it really possible in India?
Oh yes. So let me. Very good question, and that was a challenge which I have been posing. And yes, India is a very different and a difficult country when it comes to any new technology implementation. Mm-hmm. Not because we make it difficult, but because of the nature of our country itself. Yeah. Because of the diversity, because of the density, because of the various different aspects that come in picture. Because we thrive on being unstructured. whereas all other countries are thriving because they are structured. And if I were to bring the parlance of the databases that I spoke about and the content being moved out from being structured to unstructured, it's the same thing that we speak about when we talk about India as a country. While there is a lot of structure, there is a lot of unstructured way in which we function. It is a classic example of Brownian motion in use on a daily basis. So if these aspects can be implemented in India, that would be the best way in which we can quantify, justify, and also take it to the world, saying that if it works in India, it can work anywhere else. Okay, so having said that, let me come to your question directly. It is not easy. Nothing is easy. And that is the opportunity we all have. How can we make it easy? How can we make it possible? How can we actually get people to start using it? It is more of the common sense that would be applicable rather than the technology. It is more of the correlative effect that we will have to see rather than just looking at ways in which how it will not work, right? So it is definitely very, very difficult, but at the same time, in the same breath, I'll say it is definitely possible. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of effort. And it is an effort that academicians like you and me and the students whom we engage with actually participate and ensure that we catapult and we expedite all of this. Yes?
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to add one point. I think the amount of technical side of it, the amount of data that we need to collect and the amount of sensors we need to use will be much more, I suppose.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. So I said that is why opportunity for all of us.
Right.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Yes,
Thank you, sir.
absolutely. Yes. Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, thanks for your good lecture, sir. I have seen some of the good applications of this IoT. And sir, am I audible, sir?
Absolutely, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Can you
yes,
tell your
sir.
name? Can you tell your name first?
Sir, my name is Kranti Kumar. I am from Andhra Pradesh. And my designation is Assistant Professor in Gudlawalli Engineering College in Andhra Pradesh, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
And sir, I want to know the differences among these IoT and AI, sir. Often I am confused. And can you explain the differences between IoT and AI? And is there any relationship
IoT and
AI?
Artificial intelligence.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, that's actually a very good question. It's an extension of whatever we spoke today. So while my focus was on data, your question on artificial intelligence thrives on the data that I would have, right? While IoT, okay, let's look at it like the last leaf of the node is my IoT. The last leaf of the tree is the IoT that I speak about. And those are IoT devices, which could be sensors, which could be activators, which could be cameras, which could be anything. And when I get all of those data from different devices, different actuators, different platforms, and different stacks that come back into my orchestration level, that is where I would start using my artificial intelligence algorithms to make sense of the data that is coming in from various different disparate sources. So artificial intelligence is the next step of utilizing the algorithms to bring about the insights into the data that is being collected by the IoT devices. Right?
Okay,
so
sir. Thank you.
Artificial intelligence would be an all-encompassing technology when I have the various different data sets that are available to me to analyze, to dissect, to do a lot of manipulation with the data to bring about meaning to it.
That means, sir, after the data is collected from the sensors, and we can give the data to the artificial intelligence to take the decision making, isn't it, sir?
Absolutely, yes.
And
At a
one
very,
more thing,
very
sir.
high level, that is what it is.
Sir, if you don't mind, one more thing, sir. Sometimes we may be confused with M2M and IoT also. And as for my knowledge, M2M is without internet connection. There is a communication between device to device.
Okay.
And sir, can you give the brief differences between M2M and IoT also, sir?
Okay, so let's talk about this machine to machine. As I started with the definition of IoT, any device is a machine now.
Yes,
Any
sir.
machine is a device, and any device is a machine. Look at it that way. The hardcore silo definition of physical objects of a machine being a mechanical machine or an electrical machine is forgotten long back. We are talking about the physical cyber objects. So the chair that you are sitting on, the table that you have it in your house or in your office is an object which could also be a physical cyber object. So any machine that is connected to the internet would be an IoT. And when we talk about M2M, it would be restricted within an environment for various different reasons. But invariably, that is also a IoT device, which within an industry that would be referred to as industrial IoT. Within an enterprise, it would be enterprise IoT, and otherwise it is generic IoT.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Good, nice explanation.
Thank you so much.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sir. This is Karthik Patel from Somaiya Vidyavir University, Mumbai, Maharashtra. Sir, I have a question that nowadays students are designing some project. They make some project and they call everything as a IoT. Something
Absolutely.
connected to the internet, they call it that this particular system design using IoT. This system design using IoT. So, if I want to develop that culture in terms of, I'm talking about the developing the syllabus.
Yes.
And so if I want to develop a culture, or if I want that some students should be specialized in the field of IoT, then in what way I should develop that culture so that, and the syllabus, of course. So that the students will be able to understand the actual meaning, and then the project implementation will be according to that they can take. So I want some guidelines regarding that, sir.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I've participated from quite some time over the last decade in defining a lot of syllabus and curriculum across various different institutes and universities across India. So I can definitely tell you.
Yeah.
The first and foremost thing that you need to look at it, IoT can't be looked in a silo. IoT is not just intra-departmental or intra-technical outlook. You have to expand your outlook in looking at IoT as not just an electronic and communication syllabus, or just a computer science syllabus, or just an information science syllabus. You have to look at it as an overall syllabus definition of looking at getting in mechanical, chemical, electrical, civil, and all streams of engineering put together. Because if you look at it, technology has actually enabled every industry in some way or the other. Technology as an industry in itself has been enabling other industries to flourish while they are also flourishing, yes. But now is the time when I cannot see computer science alone as only programming. No,
Yes.
I need to know ways and means in which I can bring about the efficiency of this programming, connecting with different devices in the first place, communicating with different devices, and also looking at different businesses that are in existence as of now. For example, I cannot look at programming only as a program. I need to be able to build a program that will communicate with some hardware equipment outside. I need to look at my programming skills in terms of how will I establish a better connectivity? How will I ensure that data security, data privacy is taken into account? How will I ensure that the devices outside in open field are safe and secure for data theft? So I need to start thinking beyond. So IoT is a medium which will make the students think beyond their existing syllabus, beyond their existing mindset of being very, very focused. When I say focused, it is very narrow focused.
Yes. Right.
Children, students, and all of us need to start looking at it from a different perspective of bringing all technologies together. That's why I spoke about the changes that have happened.
Yes.
That changes need to be incorporated in the mindset of the children. Not all syllabus will be able to change so drastically very fast. It is the students who will have to take it further, and it's the academicians like you and me who will have to get the students focused and provided with the necessary guidance in terms of where they need to be their energies, their knowledge, and their skill sets.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so if there is no question, sir, thank you very much for your informative session. I would like to thank you for. Hello.
Hello, sir. Good morning, sir. Dr. Prakash, this side, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Dr. Prakash, this side from American College. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, just a very small question, sir. Just I want to confirm it. Sir told weather or cyclone broadcasting is also a IoT. I think these are the prediction of our data.
Okay. So where is the data coming from? It's basically coming from some sensor. And that sensor is connected to an information technology in the backend, which is collecting, collating, and analyzing the data. So that is the way it becomes part of an IoT system.
Okay,
so,
I think
so the way of looking at IoT is to look at it beyond just the data, as I just mentioned earlier also. It is about how all of these devices or objects are connected and interconnected. That is the example I took for mentioning that in the parlance of IoT, even such a thing of the satellites which are in the space are also an IoT device for us.
Okay.
Sir, one small question I have, sir.
I think Dr. Prakash still is not convinced with the answer. He still is having some doubts. If you want to still
yes, sir. Basically, just but some question is playing in my mind. Suppose I think so. Okay, Internet of things like that means anything which we see, we can connect. We can connect with the internet. Like
Absolutely.
a fridge or like a microwave machine or like anything else.
Anything,
but
yes.
you told the weather or like example is a weather or cyclone broadcasting. It's also so there are some confusion about this. So these are the device, fan or a microwave or a fridge or like these are the I think these are the machine.
Okay. Yes.
And there are two things. These are the implementation in the sense these are the prediction. We predict the weather or we predict the cyclone accordingly to the data which we have stored.
True.
And that's why there are some confusion.
Okay, let me put it very simple.
Yeah.
For example, I took the INCOIS example, right? The Earth Science, Department of Earth Science, Government of India, which has worked with various different countries in the Asia Pacific region to bring about a early tsunami detection and early tsunami warning system, which means to say that we had to get some device, some machine at the seabed. The seabed would have some way in which it would be capable of monitoring the movement of the seabed, and also some floating devices which would monitor the currents of the water, which would monitor the flow of the water, which would monitor the turbulence of the water. Now, these are devices which are already available with us, with the seismology department, with the ocean development and ocean research departments, and of course, not just India, but across the globe. These are physical devices that are available to us from last 40, 50 years. What was done is to get them technologically enabled to ensure that they communicate with a system for collecting the data from the seabed, from the sea currents, from different locations, and bring it up to a common database which would help in analyzing the conditions of the seabed, of the sea, of the sea currents, of the turbulence, of the flow, and then decide probably it is very safe today. And if there is any change in any of these parameters, there would be thousands of parameters. If there is any change in the parameters, that is when my algorithm would start functioning on the data to ensure that whether we are in a green zone, an orange zone, or a red zone, which would mean that tsunami may come in and start. It's a predictive analytics on the data. But the point of collecting the data is your IoT device.
Excuse me, sir. Just a moment. Only 1 second. The data analyst in the current data or past data?
Okay. So in this particular situation, data that is being collected on the fly is real-time data. If I can enable edge computing at that place itself, it would be data analysis at the time of collecting itself. But if I do the data analytics at the back, which is at the orchestration level, which is at the data center level, that would not be a online real-time data analytics. There would be a data latency for sure. But with the advancement of technology in the connectivity side, the latency is reduced to a large extent, which is almost real-time, almost near real-time is what we call. So please bifurcate these two things, that IoT as a device, anything and everything is an IoT device. But the data that gets collected from the IoT device is what I use for analytics at the back end using my AI, ML, and all other computational methodologies and methods that I have developed over the years.
Yes, sir. Correct, sir. Yeah,
sir, one quick question
sir.
I have.
Yeah, thanks a lot, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Sir, this is Amog Deshmukh. One last question I have, sir.
Yes.
Regarding this IoT, where does the cybersecurity with IoT stand, sir?
Oh, well, okay. That's a big, that's an ocean in itself. Right. Cybersecurity starts at every point of the data that is being collected. So your actuators, your sensors, your gateways, your protocols, your networking, networking devices, of course, your backend databases, your servers. Cybersecurity has to be implemented at all of these levels. Okay. And the way it is implemented would be different at different levels because the devices are different, the protocols used are different, the embedded technology used is different, the stack is different, the software used is different, the hardware used is different. So the complexity increases, and that is where the opportunity and the challenges are.
Out of these IoT devices, which is the device that will require a lot of cybersecurity from your perspective, sir? I mean,
okay. There is, as mentioned earlier, there is no one single point that would need more emphasis on. It is equally proportional to all of the points where the data is getting collected. Most importantly, I would put my horses on the devices that are vulnerable physically, and also the devices that are exposed to collecting the data, which needs the utmost cyber security features implemented.
Okay.
Because this is new technology, these are new usage models, these are new implementations. My backend at the server level, at the cloud level, at the user level is very much secure to a large extent. It is only the last device or the last leaf that needs to be the most secure.
Okay. Okay.
In today's
Thank you.
parlance.
Actually,
Okay.
I'm about to do my PhD research, so I was just thinking about the topic regarding IoT with cybersecurity.
Wonderful. We have a few cyber security experts in our Society for Data Science. You can reach out, probably if it is of any help. Yeah?
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your informative talk, and you have contributed to this FDP with a good beginning. Hope the participants have enjoyed this talk, and will be in touch with you in future. Thank you. On behalf of AIT and Department of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering here, we extend our gratitude for sparing your time. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, and all the best to all of you. Wishing you knowledgeable days ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Abhijit, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm right here.
So what we can do is we can continue with this session without,